up, YouTube? I'm here to do my prediction video for UFC Fight Night Lee versus Oliveira. Let's start the bond. The first fight is Veronica Macedo versus Bea. I can't say her last name. To me, Bea is like a good striker with some grappling. For the most part, I think she's pretty raw. She's only 3-0. Veronica, even though she's 1-3 in the UFC, I feel like she's only fought tough people. Like, she just won her last fight, and her first 3 fights were all against chicks that I'm pretty sure rank in the top 15. And we saw in her last fight, like, she has good grappling, she has good striking, and like I said, I think she's just fought non-stop tough opponents, and her last fight was another tough opponent. She just wasn't ranked in the top 15. And like I said, I think Bea is still super green. I think if Veronica, especially if she gets on top of Bea, is probably going to be it. So I'm going to pick Veronica. I think she wins by first round sub, probably with like a rear naked choke. The next fight is Gustavo da Silva versus David. I can't say this guy's last name. And to me, da Silva looks like he's good everywhere. He's a good striker, wrestler, jiu-jitsu guy. He's primarily a jiu-jitsu guy, but he's good everywhere. To me, David also looks like he has very strong striking and wrestling. David's on such a strong win streak that it's hard for me to kind of pick against him. I feel like he just looks so well-rounded, and he hasn't lost in like a few years. I feel like da Silva, I also don't know how big this weight cut's for him because his last fight was at 35, and he looked like a decent-sized 35er. So I don't know what this weight cut's going to do to him. But either way, I'm just picking David. Like, his win streak and how good he's looked recently, it's just hard to pick against him. I think he's going to win either by knockout or decision. Next, we got Marina Morse versus Maya da Silva, Bruno Silva. To me, Morris is a good jiu-jitsu chick, but that's about it. I think Silva's much better everywhere. I think I like her more well-rounded game. There's not a ton to say about this fight. I think other than Morris catching Silva with like an armbar, I think Silva's just way better everywhere. And I'm picking Silva. Next is Hanyaya versus Henrique Barzola. To me, this fight's really tough because Hanyaya hasn't fought in a while. But I think that Henrique's biggest weakness is he doesn't have the greatest takedown. I mean, he has good takedown defense. He's good at getting back up. But that's against kind of like straight wrestlers like him. I feel like against someone like Hanyaya, if Hanyaya can take him down, it's a little different. I don't know if Hanyaya can take him down because, like I said, Henrique does have good takedown defense. It's really tough because Henrique's biggest weakness is that he's not a great finisher. He has great volume, but that's kind of it. He doesn't get tired. And that's the biggest advantage he has in this fight is Hanyaya will start to slow down as it goes, and Barzola won't. It's really tough because I feel like it's either going to be like a first-round submission for Yaya or a 29-28 decision for Barzola. And I really feel like this fight could go either way. But I'm just leaning towards Yaya. I feel like if he gets it down in the first round, then I think he has a strong chance of submitting Barzola. So I'm going with Yaya. I think he gets the first round sub. Next is Eloise Dos Santos versus Alexi. I can't say his last name. To me, this is just two really good strikers going at it. It's kind of just who has the better night, in my opinion. I think Alexi's the better technical striker, but I think Eloise just hits harder and has better speed overall. So it's kind of like, does Alexi's technique, beat out Dos Santos' better speed and power? It's really close. I'm leaning towards Dos Santos. I feel like when he hits Alexi, he's going to be doing more damage. And that's just going to edge out the rounds for him. I think every round will be pretty close. It's either going to be a 29-28 or 30-27 for Dos Santos, but I think it's just his power and speed are going to edge him out the rounds. And I also think that if he had to, I do think he's the better grappler. Alexi's got good wrestling, but I feel like if Dos Santos can't take him down, he's good at controlling guys, and so I think that he could win a decision through that too. Next, we got Randa Marcos versus Amanda Ribas, and to me, this fight is so tough because Randa is so difficult to predict. Sometimes she looks amazing, and sometimes she doesn't. She's like one of those pitchers that can like throw a perfect game one time, and then the next time she gets like 5 home runs against her. It's just so hard to tell with her. Sometimes she looks like she's an easy top 10, top 5 chick, and other times she looks like she should barely be in the top 15. I'm going with Marcos just because I feel like if she does get this to the ground, she's going to have a pretty big advantage on top. I feel like other than that, Ribas is better kind of everywhere. If she's on top or if they're striking, Ribas is better. But I feel like if Randa can get it down early, she's probably going to win. So I'm going with Randa by submission, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ribas wins. This is probably the most iffy pick for me, but I'm going with Randa. Next, we got Jussier Formiga versus Brandon Moreno. And to me, Brandon Moreno is definitely the better striker of the two, but I feel like his biggest weakness is he's not very hard to take down. He gets taken down a lot, and it's because his jiu-jitsu is so good that he doesn't really care. Like, his jiu-jitsu is the best part of his game, so of course his takedown defense is kind of so-so. He wants to be on the ground. The problem is Jussier is way better there. Like, Jussier is like a world champion jiu-jitsu guy. He's a high-level black belt. Like, he might even be a second-degree black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Ezra Moreno, I think he's either a brown belt or like just barely a black belt. Moreno's definitely more active on the ground, but I don't think it matters. I think Jussier, especially if he's on top, his ability to control, it's not going to matter. And like I said, the issue is that even though he's the better striker, I don't think he's the significantly better striker. I just think he has better volume and better combos. I feel like Jussier can probably get this fight to the ground whenever he wants, in my honest opinion. Like I said, I don't think Moreno has the greatest takedown defense because he likes fighting off of his back. He likes fighting on the ground. And I feel like when Jussier takes him down, he's going to be able to control him. I don't know if he'll be able to finish him, but I think he's going to be able to do that at least 2 of the 3 rounds and get either a 29-28 decision or a 30-27 for Jussier, in my opinion. On to the main card. The first fight is Francisco Trinaldo versus John Makdessi. And to me, this could really go either way. They're both really good strikers with really good takedown defense. I don't think either guy's going to really try to take it to the ground. Trinaldo almost never does it, and Makdessi never does it. I don't think I've ever seen him shoot for a takedown. If he has, it's pretty far in between. So it's kind of like Francisco's power and forward movement versus Makdessi's better overall technique. It's so tough because I feel like Trinaldo could win by knockout at any point in time, like between the two. But I think Makdessi's just a little bit better technically overall. It's so tough, but I'm a slightly edge towards Trinaldo because I feel like he's going to be the one moving forward, and I think the close rounds are going to edge towards him because of that. So I got Trinaldo winning by a really close split decision. Next, we got Johnny Walker versus Nikita Krylov, and this fight is really close. Both these guys fight almost the exact same way in the sense that they're both big first-round fighters. They both do really well in the first round. They have a fuck ton of finishes in the first round. My biggest thing is that Nikita Krylov is more well-rounded. I feel like if he gets it to the ground, he's going to have a massive advantage. As we're on the feet, I think Walker's definitely the better striker, but I don't think it's this huge gap. I think Nikita's got good boxing and karate versus Johnny Walker's like Thai, Muay Thai. Like, what I mean? Like, he's got a mix of like Brazilian Muay Thai and the traditional like Thailand, Bangkok style Muay Thai. It's really tough because, like I said, striking definitely Johnny Walker, on the ground definitely Krylov. And to me, like I said, the biggest thing is that on the feet, Krylov can definitely catch Walker. On the ground, it's not going to be like that. I think Krylov's got a big advantage. And just because of that, I think Krylov, if he times the takedown well, which he's really good at, I think he's going to get the first round sub. So I'm leaning towards Nikita Krylov. I think he's going to get the takedown, and when he does, I think he's going to end up on his back and win by sub. Next, we got Renato Moicano versus Damir Hazagov. And to me, Damir has had the same issue throughout almost every single one of his UFC fights. He kind of gets controlled by better grapplers. Like, even the fight against Marcin Held where he won by knockout, he was down 2 rounds before he just got kind of lucky with the knee. He's got 3 losses, but the other 2 to Cristiano and I can't remember the other guy, but just guys who are better grapplers, stronger wrestler jiu-jitsu guys who were able to take him down, were able to control him pretty easily and just hold him there. And I feel like Moicano can do the same shit. I feel like striking-wise it's close. Moicano's more technical. Damir hits harder. But like I said, the biggest issue is I think Moicano can probably take this down whenever he wants. And I don't know if he'll finish Damir because Damir's never been submitted. But I definitely think Moicano can control it for 3 rounds. So I'm going with Moicano. I think he wins a 30-27 decision, or he gets a win by rear naked choke. Next, we got Damian Maia versus Gilbert Burns. And for me, the biggest issue in this fight is Gilbert Burns is going to be way smaller than Damian Maia. Like, people forget. Look at Damian Maia's last 3 wins. He beat Lyman Good and Anthony Rocco Martin. Rocco Martin's probably one of the tallest guys and longest guys at welterweight, and Lyman Good's one of the biggest, like, overall size-wise. And he was able to take those guys down and control them. He submitted Good. He's the only person who's ever finished Good. And, when he beat Rocco Martin, people forget. Rocco Martin was like 7-1 or 8-1 in his last, 8 or 9 fights going into that fight with Maia. Maia beat him 2 rounds to 1. And those were 2 big guys. Like, I know Burns is a better jiu-jitsu guy overall than those 2 guys, but I don't think it matters if Damian Maia's on top of you. I think he's fought a lot of great jiu-jitsu guys that couldn't get up once he took them down. Like I said, to me, Maia's got at least 4 or 5 inches of height on him. I think Burns is like 5'9", 5'10", and Maia's like 6'1", 6'2". I think his arms and legs are longer, and I'm just saying he's fought bigger guys than him and was able to control them. I know Burns is the better grappler than those 2 guys that I just said, but Maia also fought Ben Askren, who's definitely at least as good as Burns in my opinion. And he was able to out-grapple him, and I just feel like Maia's going to probably do what he did in his fight with Rocco. I know that Burns is the better striker, but just like with Rocco's the better striker too. I think that Maia's going to do what he does in a lot of fights, which is win the first 2 rounds and then kind of survive the third. So I got Maia winning 2 rounds to 1 by decision. Finally, we got the main event, Kevin Lee versus Charles Oliveira, and this is a really close fight. I feel like striking-wise, it's really close. Grappling-wise, Oliveira is definitely better, but Kevin Lee's got nasty ground and pound. I think the smartest thing for Kevin Lee would be keep it standing and let Oliveira try to take to the ground and just strike with Oliveira as much as he can. Because Kevin Lee can definitely knock guys out from the top with his mount, but he's been submitted. You know, Tony Ferguson caught him in a triangle, and I feel like Charles Oliveira is just as good as Tony was. I know Kevin was a little bit tired by that point because it was late in the third, but I'm just saying Charles Oliveira's got a really active guard and he can catch anybody. I think it's going to come down to the striking because I don't think it's going to hit the ground. It's really tough because I feel like Oliveira's probably a little bit faster. Kevin Lee probably hits a tiny bit harder. Technique's about even. I think that it really just depends on who kind of lands that first big shot or who gets the first dominant position on the ground. Because like I said, if Kevin Lee can mount him right away and just smash him, I think he wins. But if Oliveira can kind of like jump on his back or something, I think Oliveira's going to win. It's close. I think it's probably going to end in the first 2 rounds, but I'm slightly leaning towards Lee. I just like his striking a little bit more, and I think that's where it's going to be for the most part because I think his wrestling's better. I do think that, like I said, Oliveira could probably catch him in submission at any point in time, but I'm just leaning towards Lee with his slightly better striking, in my opinion. Probably, like I said, first or second round KO. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe.